Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure story game app that is free, and it's on both Android and iOS. I highly recommend it. There's a lot of different paths that you can take throughout the story. There's a lot of diversity. It's a really good story, and I have a lot of respect for the author, so I highly recommend you check it out yourself. If you don't want to check it out yourself, you could always... Or if you don't want to play it yourself, but you do want to know what's going on, all of my previous readings are in a Magium playlist on YouTube, which you could check out there. The way that this works is, since it is choose your own adventure, we are doing a smart, good playthrough. When we get to a decision, I'm going to read out what the options are. If it's a good or a smart decision, then I'm probably going to make the decision for us. If it's not good or smart, if it's just like directional or conversational, I will open it up to you guys. If you guys want to just fall asleep or relax or just don't want to engage, that's totally okay. If no one says anything after about a minute, I will make a decision for us and move on with the story. If people do want to participate, I will go with whatever the majority in the chat decides, votes for. So if you guys want to participate, awesome. If you don't want to participate, that's fine. You can just relax. Yeah. And if anyone has any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. I know that we are in the middle of the story. And we've also taken a bit of a break. So in order to unlock the next book, we had to get 25 achievements. So we have been achievement hunting the last several Magium streams. And we finally got 25, so we are going to be starting... Oh, Felly, hello, welcome back. Felly, have you been here for Magium? I lost my train of thought. I'm so spacey today. So we're going to be starting the third book today, which means that I'm sort of going to be remembering as we go as well. We are doing a smart, good playthrough. I will read the last page. Yeah, if anyone has any questions about who a character is, what's going on, feel free to ask. Yeah. Oh, and I have all sound alerts turned off right now because this is supposed to be relaxing, so I would not recommend redeeming any of those. So, where we left off... the main party had been attacked by the God of Time, pretty much. God of Time made them go through this ritual where he was harvesting energy from their suffering, so he basically made them relive their most traumatic memories, and it was uncomfortable for everyone involved. And the main character, Barry, decided that he hated the God of Time, understandably so. Yeah, I mean, not all of the gods are like that, but none of the gods seem to be overly great, from what we've seen. We've only interacted with, like, this one, though. Araka is a member of their party, sort of. She's a banshee spirit that's been trapped in an amulet because she's too powerful to kill outright. She's extremely evil. She escaped at one point and did kill everyone in the party. Yeah, she escaped, killed everyone in the party, then someone else used time magic to rewind time, and yeah, she's not good news, but she was banished from the magical realm where the gods are because she kept killing them, so she doesn't like the gods either. Yeah. So I'm gonna read the last page of the second book. So, I say as I approach Darren, what exactly are you planning to do after this break? What do you mean? Darren says as he continues to sharpen his sword without looking at me. After the break, we'll continue to march towards Allendor like before. Isn't that what we set out to do when we left Thilius? Of course, I say. But you know very well that this is not what I meant. When I asked what you were planning to do, I was thinking more in the long term. I was thinking about the god of time and the upcoming rituals he's threatened us with. What are you planning to do about those? I don't know, Barry, Darren tells me as he stops sharpening his sword and looks me in the eye. You tell me, because I'm not really seeing an obvious way out of this. The way I see it, all we can do is prepare ourselves the best we can for the next rituals, and hope that we can pass them like we passed our last trials. Well, I was thinking that we could find a more permanent solution to our problem, I say. Like what? Darren says. Kill the god of time? Barry, be reasonable. We're talking about a literal god here. We were having trouble even against a sage not so long ago. What would you expect us to do against a god? We are nowhere near powerful enough to challenge him. That's funny, I say, because you're nowhere near as powerful as Eden either, and yet you kept challenging him again and again every time we've met. That's different, Darren says. Despite his power, Eden is still a mage. We've fought mages before. Some of them are more powerful than others, but you still have a general idea of what to expect when fighting one. But to challenge a god? Barry, neither you nor I have even the slightest bit of experience in dealing with something like this. Then maybe we should ask someone who does, I say. Before Darren gets to say anything else, I start walking towards Aluna, who was apparently having a discussion with Araka. As I get closer to them, the two of them interrupt their conversation, waiting to see what I want. Araka, I have a question to ask of you, I say with a very serious tone in my voice. Sure, Araka says. Fire away. How do you kill a god? I ask her, calmly. There's a short pause after I ask my question, during which neither of us say anything. You want me to tell you how you can kill a god? Araka says, as she seems to still be recovering from the shock of what I've just asked her. She waits for a few more seconds to try and figure out if I am joking or not, and then she finally understands that I am being serious. And when she finally understands that I am being serious, she starts to laugh. She laughs and she laughs as loud as she can with all three of her voices, and it doesn't look like she's planning to stop anytime soon. However, I am not upset. This isn't one of her usual mocking laughs. This laughter is one of excitement. She is enjoying this. She's enjoying this. Araka's laugh manages to grab the attention of everyone in the area, and they're all looking at us curiously. I pay them no mind, and I keep waiting patiently for Araka to stop laughing. When she finally falls silent, she waits for a few more seconds, and then she gives me her answer. Barry, my boy, Araka says, I thought you'd never ask. And that is how Book 2 ended. We have unlocked what we need to get to Book 3, so here we go. Hey Barry, are you done eating? Darren says. It's almost time for our daily strategy meeting with Araka. Yeah, I'm pretty much done, I say as I leave my plate on the ground and begin to follow Darren. Let's go. It has now been 3 weeks, It has now been 3 days since our encounter with the God of Time. We've been steadily approaching the city of Allendor for these past few days, and according to Melindra, we should be reaching our destination tomorrow before noon. While we've been traveling, we've all tried to avoid speaking about the rituals we went through as much as possible, and we did our best to act as if nothing had changed. However, even if on the surface our discussions didn't seem much different from before, it was becoming clearer with every passing day that each one of us had been affected in some way by the God of Time's rituals, or by the God of Time's trials. This is probably also the reason why most of the people from our group eventually agreed with my idea of having Araka train us to defeat Selkrim. Some were more reluctant than others, but in the end, the only 2 persons not officially participating in our daily meetings were Layla and Melindra. Considering that Layla will be remaining in Allendor with her father, and that Melindra will no longer be traveling with us after she will be done with her oath, it is probably better that way. Araka's plans seem like they will be taking a lot of time to accomplish, after all. I still can't believe that we're actually having these meetings with Araka, Darren tells me, as we slowly climb towards our meeting spot, which is located on top of a small hill near our camp. If you had told me a week ago that I'd ever agree to do something like this, I would have laughed in your face. It's not like we have much of a choice, I say. You said it yourself. We don't have any kind of experience in dealing with gods. The only one in our group who has ever fought against them on equal terms is Araka. If it were only up to us to make a battle plan, we wouldn't even know where to begin. Yeah, I get it, Darren says. It's just that it feels weird, you know? It was not so long ago that she tried to kill us. Actually, what am I saying? She did kill us, before the time got reversed, and now she's suddenly acting as our coach? Why would she agree to any of this? It's all a bit fishy, if you ask me. She does have her own beef against the gods, though, I say. They're the ones who banished her from the magical realm, remember? Of course she'd want to get back to... Of course she'd want to get back at them in any way she can. And since she's been trapped in an amulet for decades, we're the best chance she's got. I suppose, Darren says, but even so, I'm still planning to take everything she says with a grain of salt. There's still a chance that this is just one of her usual schemes and she's making us waste our time for her own amusement. As we finally reach the top of the hill, we see that everyone except me and Darren was already there, waiting for us. It looks like Layla and Melindra have decided to join the meeting as well, even if they are only participating as spectators. Layla has also spectated our meetings the last 2 times, but Melindra didn't bother to join us until now. I guess that curiosity must have finally gotten the better of her when she saw that the training sessions were actually becoming a regular thing, instead of us just giving up after the first 2 tries. You're late, Araka tells Darren and me as we approach her and the others. The penalty for tardiness in my class is 20 push-ups, and you'd better not try to cheat, or I'll make you wear a dunce hat and send you to sit in a corner. fine, I'll do the push-ups. How about you do 20 push-ups first, and I'll do mine right after? I feel like Goodberry would pick this one. We were doing a good, smart playthrough. I feel like Good Smart would do this one. But if someone would like to help me make a decision here, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will go with this one in about a minute. Alright. Fine. I'll do the push-ups, I say. Since when does Araka get to tell us what to do? Darren says. Who cares? I say, as I get down on the ground and start doing the 20 push-ups. It's just a bit of physical exercise, anyway. I'd rather do this than waste time arguing about it endlessly. Yes, but still, it's a matter of principle, Darren says. And besides, I'm wearing heavy armor, so I don't feel like taking it off just to play along with Araka's comedy routine. Oh yeah? Araka says. Well, what if I decide that I no longer want to play along with your comedic efforts to try and defeat the god of time? Oh. With your comedic efforts of trying to defeat a god, then I was just helping you out of boredom anyway. Weren't you the ones who begged me on their hands and knees to give them the information that they needed? Actually, all I did was ask you a simple question, I say as I get up from the ground. You're the one who jumped at the opportunity to take your vengeance on the gods with the first chance you got. Not me. Ha! Araka says. Come to think of it, you never did beg properly for me to help you. How about we fix that situation by you getting on your knees right now? If you sound desperate enough, I may just agree to continue your little training sessions. Or maybe you can stop wasting everyone's time and get on with the meeting, Aluna says in a firm tone of voice. We didn't come here to hear your ramblings. All right, fine, Araka says. I was just having a little fun, that's all. There's no need to be so uptight about every single thing. Everyone gather round. It's time to check up on all of your progress. I'm not sure if it's my imagination, but Araka seems to be acting a lot more obediently towards Aluna nowadays. And she's also taking her more seriously than she did before. I think her whole attitude towards her ex-disciple has started to slowly change ever since that time when Aluna threatened to throw her back into the Magium. It looks like, even though she won't admit it, Araka might have gained a newfound respect for Aluna after seeing the way she confronted her during those events. Let's start with Darren, then, Araka says. This should be good. Tell me, Darren, how much progress have you made in contacting the spirit from the magical plane that you are linked with? Is it 0? Please tell me it's 0 again. That would be hilarious. Well, maybe it would be more than 0 if your advice could amount to anything other than meaningless gibberish, Darren says. I mean, how are you supposed to get any useful information out of vague phrases such as you need to untangle the flow of your aura with your mind until you can see it clearly in your head, or you can think of the link to your spirit as a very long invisible string, which you can grab onto and pull on until you manage to get the spirit's attention. Only an oaf like you could see my words of wisdom as anything other than a pure blessing, Araka says. Do you have any idea how many would kill to have me as their mentor? Well, hang on. Thank you so much for the raid. Let me pause this recording. And yeah, here we go. Only an oaf like you could see my words of wisdom as anything other than a pure blessing, Araka says. Do you have any idea how many would kill to have me as their mentor? Well, maybe not specifically me, but someone like me with thousands of years of knowledge about magic and who originates from the very plane of existence where all the magical energy in this world is coming from. And instead, look at what you're doing. You are just squandering away all this immense potential for the simple reason that you are too lazy to try to understand what I'm teaching you. I did try to understand, Darren says, but none of what you've said is making any sense to me. Well, then try harder, Araka says. Or ask better questions. What is the part that you are having trouble with? Is it the visualization part? Is it the fact that your magical sense is too weak to tell the difference between the countless layers that make up your aura? Can you even do elementary stuff like being able to tell how old a person is from analyzing their aura? I have no idea what you weaklings are capable of. All I know is that your magical sense is nowhere near as refined as mine. But that could mean anything. Just chilling. I'm good. Thank you for asking. And thank you. I appreciate that. Toxic. We can't tell anything beyond the basics, you stupid old hag, Hadrick says. We already told you this yesterday. But what are the basics for you people? Araka says. Being able to tell somebody's age or their race from their aura is considered as basic on the magical plane. Can you do that at least? No, of course not, Hadrick says. All we can tell from an aura is how much magical power someone has. We mostly just use this sense to figure out where our enemies are and if they can cast any magic. That's it, Araka says, shocked. Well, why the hell didn't you say that from the beginning? That changes everything. What you morons need to do first is basic aura training. Start with breathing exercises and work your way up from there. Seriously. Toxic, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. Seriously, how could you even get to this level of magical proficiency without mastering the basics? With your levels of magical power, it should be an elementary task to figure out someone's age. Just focus on the small rotating currents right above a person's head. The one that gives off a cold vibe, even if they look like... The one that The ones that give off a cold vibe, even if they look like they're letting out steam. You won't see them on your first try, but if you look really carefully, you'll notice that they are masked by a sort of waterfall that is blocking your view. Obviously, when I'm telling you to look carefully, I mean with your magical sense, not with your eyes. Canadian Clown, hello, welcome in. Toxic, thank you so much for subscribing, I appreciate you. Welcome in, welcome to the Toy Box. Canadian Clown, I'm glad you were finally able to catch a reading stream. Rules are, sound alerts are turned off. So don't waste your points on those, or I would recommend not wasting your points on those. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We are on starting the third book now, so if you don't know what's going on, feel free to ask. When we get to a decision, I will read it out. Some people just want to relax and fall asleep. Relax or fall asleep, that's totally fine. Some people want to participate. If we get to a decision and it's conversational, directional, I will let you guys help me make the decision. We are doing a good, smart playthrough, so if it's a good or a smart decision, I will make the decision for us. Captain Charismatic, hello, welcome in. J Rowdy, welcome back. Yeah, so if we get to one of the decisions, I will give everyone a minute. If no one says anything, I will make the decision for us. If people do say things, I will go with whatever the majority of chat decides. Yeah. Also, there's stats and stuff in this game. Got borked, now you're just chilling. Well, welcome back, J Rowdy. I'm sorry that it got borked. I don't know what's borked mean. Obviously, when I'm telling you to look carefully, I mean with your magical sense, not your eyes. That description sounds even worse than the ones you gave us yesterday, Hadrick says. How do you even make this stuff up? Yeah, Darren says. If you ask me, she's probably doing it on purpose in order to make it... Wait a minute. He then gets closer to Flower in order to have a better look at Araka's amulet. Did you just say something about a waterfall? Darren says as he looks at the amulet intently. Yeah, the age is hidden right behind it, Araka says. You just need to imagine yourself passing through the waterfall and grabbing the rotating currents between your hands until they stop moving. That's when the age number will become clear enough for you to read. Ha 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 ha, Hadrick says. Hadrick laughs. Darren, did you hear that? I think she wants you to go for a swim. Darren does not say anything, and he keeps looking straight at Araka's amulet in deep concentration. Love the cozy fire sounds in the background. I'm glad you like that, Toxic. That was something that I added somewhat recently. I used to just be silent, and I figured that this is better. Something messed up with the whole server and it crashed. Oh no! I'm sorry to hear that, Jay. Well, I'm glad to have you back. Darren? Hadrick says. No. This can't be right, Darren tells Araka after a short while. It tells me here that your age is negative 315. Unless I'm supposed to decipher it or something, this number doesn't tell me anything. Don't read my age, you dope, Araka says. I'm hiding it on purpose so people can't tell exactly how old I am. I've also taught Aluna to do the same. Read Read somebody else's aura, like that ice mage, or that of the mute girl. Neither of their ages is hidden in any way, and they should be easy for you to see. She's able to manipulate her aura, so that it lies. Ed Guy, hello, welcome in. Nice to meet you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. How are you doing today? Darren does as Araka says, and he now shifts his gaze towards Kate. After giving her a pondering look for a good 10 seconds, he finally decides to speak again, addressing Kate directly. Kate, you are 22 years old, he says. Is that correct? Yes, Kate says. I think so. I never got to meet my parents, so I don't know my exact birth date, but based on the age estimation they gave me when I first joined the Beacon, what you said should be accurate. Thank you for the lurk, Ed Guy. And Layla, you are 19 years old, Darren asks, after he also looks at Layla for a few seconds. Layla nods. Barry is 28 years old, like he said, and Hadrick is, Darren says, but he then stops suddenly while he keeps looking at looking above Hadrick's head. I think something's wrong here, Darren says. Hadrick's aura shows me that he is over 100 years old. But that can't be his real age. Can it? Hadrick laughs. Yeah, the aura is not wrong, Darren, Hadrick says. We giants live a lot longer than humans. By your standards, I probably appear to be about as old as you, but in reality, I'm a lot older. Huh, Darren says. I guess the reason why I was so surprised is because I always keep forgetting that you are a giant. In your dwarf form, you look as if you were in your 40s. What about me? Flower asks Darren. What does my age say about my own, or what does my aura say about my own age? Your age? Darren asks as he looks above her head for a few seconds. He then opens his mouth to say something, but he changes his mind and only answers her a few seconds later. 9 years old, Darren says. It says you're 9 years old. No, Flower says, visibly frustrated. That's not what it says. It says I'm 29. Petal, tell him what it really says. The only thing I see when I look at your age is the number 9, Aluna says. No, there's a 2 right before that 9, and you know it, Flower says, as I can see Darren smirking in the background. I can sense the aura above my head just fine, and it says 29. I know you can see it. I also can only see the number 9 when I look above Flower's head. Stop teasing her, guys. Flower can be whatever age she wants to be. Listen, regardless of what her aura says, I think that we can all agree what her real age is. Flower, why are you so fixated on this number? We all know how long you've lived. So Flower, for context, Flower is a little girl who was 9 years old, just about to turn 10, but she was 9 years old when her body was possessed by a banshee, who is a Luna. What usually happens in this case is the banshee takes over the mind and body of the person when they awaken, but because Flower is what they call an ethereal, which means that she lives inside her mind and not her body. For like it's difficult to explain, but she was able to defend herself, and so instead of her Flower being erased, Aluna and Flower's souls fused together, and now they share the body, and her body and brain consequently stopped aging at the age of 9. That was 20 years ago, so she is 29. But she still has the personality and body of a 9-year-old. So that's what's going on. But she's sensitive because she is 29, technically speaking. We are doing a good smart playthrough, so I feel like anything that's mean probably isn't the best, but none of these are super mean. So if anyone would like to weigh in, now is your chance to do so. Otherwise, I will make a decision for us in about a minute. Alright, I see 2 people have said 3, and 1 person said 4. So I'm gonna go with 3. Listen, regardless of what her aura says, I think we can all agree on what her real age is. Yeah, it's, Flower starts to say, and then Darren, Aluna, and I all say her age at the same time. 9 years old, the 3 of us say in unison. I'm not 9 years old, Flower shouts. I'm 29. Why won't any of you admit it? The reason why no one wants to admit you're 29 years old is because you never act your age, Aluna says. If you were to act more maturely, then maybe people would be more willing to treat you like an adult. As far as I'm concerned, you're still the same little girl that I met all those years ago, and you haven't changed one bit since then. Fine, I get it, Flower says in a loud tone. And then she pouts. If it upsets you so much, then I won't act like this anymore. I will be serious and mature, and I will talk just like a grown-up. Will that be all right with you, Aluna? For a moment, I could see Flower's eyes turn blue as Aluna just stares in front of her in shock. Merry Christmas, Rabbit. Welcome in. It's good to see you. I never said that you need to use my real name when you... Flower starts to say, or Aluna starts to say, but Flower interrupts her. No, it's fine, Flower says, trying to imitate Kate's colder tone and look, although you can clearly also see a bit of sadness in her eyes as she speaks. It was a childish thing to do anyway. I won't annoy you by using that nickname anymore. You weren't, Aluna starts to say, but now it is Araka who interrupts her. Isn't it, Rabbit? It's free if you want to set it up on your own stream. How about you two continue your drama in your own free time? Aluna says. After all, we didn't come here to hear your ramblings. Isn't that right, Aluna? Very well, Aluna says, as her expression darkens. You may continue with your training session. Thank you, Araka says. So, as I was saying, what Darren and Hadrick need to be focusing on right now is to learn the basics of reading auras. The real basics, I mean, not the kind of stuff that can be done by literally every person in the world. As powerful mages, you should have the advantage of being able to learn this stuff in a matter of days instead of years, with a little guidance. I'll give you more specific information at the end of this meeting. Darren seems to be reasonably adept at this sort of thing when he tries, but I'm not sure what to say about the dwarf. You kind of need to have a certain level of intelligence to be able to master the basics, and Hadrick isn't exactly what you'd call a scholar. Still, we'll see what can be done. When Hadrick mumbles what appears to be a dwarven swear under his breath, I decide to ask Araka a question about the auras while we are still on this topic. Should the rest of us be practicing our aura reading skills? I say. No, Araka says. Like I said just now, if you're not already a powerful mage, then you would need years to master the basics. So, you, for example, would just be wasting your time. Kate is a relatively powerful mage, and she would probably benefit from learning this stuff, but I'd prefer if she'd focus on the tasks I gave her instead, since our time is limited. Aluna more or less knows the basics already, and Flower didn't exactly learn them, but she can figure out some of this stuff at first glance, likely as a result of being an ethereal. And as for the mute girl, Layla was her name, right? Anyway, so I think Layla may already know quite a bit more than the basics, since she's already able to tell from your auras if you're lying or not. That's a pretty rare ability to have, even for a Lasathi. So, as far as aura reading skills go, she's on another level compared to you lot. I'm not sure if this is a result of many years of practice, or if she's just particularly talented in this field, though. I'm not really all that talented, Layla writes. A lot of the time, I fail at calling people's bluffs, even after reading their auras. It's only for people that are very easy to read, like Barry, that I always manage to tell if they're lying or not. The mute girl brings up a good point, Araka says. Barry, your bluffing skills are simply abysmal. Your face and your tone of voice might not give you away most of the time, but when you lie about something, your aura just shakes like crazy. If you don't do something about this problem of yours, you might risk giving us away to Selkrim before we even get the time to put our plan into motion. Get control of your aura already. And how would you expect me to do that? I say. By investing some points in your bluff stat, obviously, Araka says. Do I really need to tell you everything? My bluff stat? I say. Yeah. The one that helps you keep the flow of your aura calm, even when you tell a bald-faced lie. Araka says. It's literally called bluff. You can't miss it. What are you talking about? I say. I don't have a bluff stat on my stat device, and neither does Layla. What? Araka says. No, that can't be right. You must be looking in the wrong place or something. Give me the stat device of yours. Bring it close to my amulet so I can study the magical particles on this screen properly. I'll find the stat for you. Well, if you say so, I say, as I pull the stat device out of my pocket and bring it right in front of Araka's amulet. After about 15 seconds of silence, Araka finally decides to speak again. Something isn't right here, she says. Thank you for the hydrate. Something isn't right here, she says. It's not only your bluff stat that is missing. The other two aura-related stats are missing too. I'm not seeing that magical sense stat or the aura hardening stat anywhere on the screen. Could they have been removed? No. Hidden. They're most definitely hidden. I think these stats may be hidden by default, and the guys I saw using stat boosters 600 years ago must have had them unlocked manually. That's the only explanation I can come up with. Thank you, Edguy. Yeah, I'd try to hydrate. But I get, distracted. Did you just say something about an aura hardening stat? I say, as I put the stat device back in my pocket. Is that supposed to be something similar to the technique invented by Hadric so that he could defend himself in his shape-shifted state when he couldn't cast protection magic on himself? Huh? Araka says. Oh, yeah, the dwarf does use something like that. But he's obviously not the first one to have invented this technique. Many others have come up with similar techniques in the past. Which have more or less the same purpose. Never mind that, though. I think I may have found a new task for you and Layla. I'm guessing that you still haven't made any progress towards unlocking your magical power and magical knowledge stats. But maybe you'll have more luck if you try to unlock your aura stats. You should get Darren to help you too, since he's an enchanter. But make sure that you don't tamper with your device too much. We wouldn't want you to accidentally break your stat booster and to become even more useless than you already are. I'll take a look with Layla and Darren, and we'll see what we can find. I'd rather wait until we meet up with Layla's father so he can have a look. I feel like good smart would do either of these. There's not really any harm in looking. There's also smartness when it comes to waiting to see Layla's father, because Layla's father is a tinkerer, or an inventor who is well versed in tinkering with stat devices. So, if anyone would like to weigh in here, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will make a decision in about a minute. I mean, just because they're taking a look doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do anything. It just means that they're going to take a look. I'm seeing 2 people voting for 1 person voting for 2, which means that we're probably going to take 1 unless Rabbit switches sides. Alright, 1 it is. I'll take a look with Layla and Darren, and we'll see what we can find. Good, Araka says. You can do that after we're done with the meeting. But remember not to pester Darren for help unless he's taking a break from his aura training. What is most crucial right now is that Darren and Hadrick find a way to contact the spirits they are linked to in the magical plane. Everything else comes second. I don't get it, Melindra says. Why is it so important for Hadrick and Darren to contact these spirits? How would that help them in any way fight the god of time? Oh, right, you weren't here during our last 2 meetings, Araka says. Well, one of the reasons why Darren needs to contact his spirit is so that he can finally be rid of the incredibly inconvenient weakness of not being able to make magical barriers against physical attacks. It's pretty obvious that this problem of his comes from the fact that he is incorrectly linked with his spirit. So if they talk things out, maybe they'll find a way to fix it. That way, he could finally ditch that ugly armor of his and wear something more fit for a mage, like some light leather armor. Not to mention that according to his ex-master, a lot of the moves he's been taught cannot be used due to the weight of his armor. And we all saw how well that old geezer could fight. If Darren could use even half of those fancy moves, it would be a huge improvement. Team meetings are specifically for Microsoft? Okay, but what about Hadrick then? Melindra says. What would he have to gain by contacting his spirit? Nothing, Araka says. But that's not the point. What matters is that we would have something to gain by him contacting his spirit. And why would that be? Melindra says. Well, Araka says. The second and much more important reason why we want to get in contact with the spirit from the magical plane, with a spirit from the magical plane, is that we want to set up a little conflict between the god of time, the god of death, and all the other spirits. A conflict, Melindra says. Araka says. See, I'm not sure how much attention you've been paying to my discussion with Selkrim. Jerry, hello, welcome in. Thank you so much for the follow. I'm not sure how much attention you've been paying to my discussion with you've been paying to my discussion with Selkrim, but one thing I mentioned when I was talking to him was that I figured out he also tried to absorb other spirits just like me, in order to gain more power. He failed miserably and obviously never attempted anything like that again. But after the first few times... Never attempted anything like that again after the first few times. But the other spirits don't know that. In fact, the others likely don't know anything at all about the fact that he and Ulrich tried to absorb spirits. Because if they did, they would have tried to throw them out of the magical plane, just like they did with me. It doesn't look like any of the spirits figured out that the multiple voices Selkrim and Ulrich gained when they talk are coming from the spirits they absorbed incorrectly. But that would change if I could somehow come into contact with one of the spirits on the magical plane and spill the beans. But would they believe you? Melindra says. They would be forced to believe me if I gave them enough proof, Araka says, and since I'm the one who invented the technique, I obviously know exactly what they need to test for in order to convince themselves that the voices are indeed coming from badly absorbed spirits. Once they find this out, it's going to be complete chaos. All the gods and powerful spirits in the magical realm will start fearing for their own existence, and they will try to rid themselves of both Selkrim and Ulrich. This would also force the god of fate to pick a side in this conflict, and while Mempher may not care much about the god of time, he most certainly couldn't just turn against the god of death right in the middle of their alliance. Thus, the three gods would have no choice but to form a new alliance, while making enemies out of every single spirit in the magical plane. The god of storms and the god of seas would most definitely be leading the charge against them, and there are some strong animal and monster spirits too that could pose quite a challenge to our godly trio. Oh, Melindra says while stroking her chin. So your aim is to have the three gods banished to the earthly plane then? Nah, Araka says. Mempher is the only one who knows the Magium well enough to pull off such a stunt, and even he probably wouldn't have the guts to try something like that again, after what happened to them the last time they did it. Nevertheless, Mempher would almost certainly be forced to join the side of the outcasts. So the most likely scenario is that there would soon be a very long-lasting, all-out war between the god of fate... Between the god of fate, the god of death, and the god of time, and every other god and spirit in the magical realm. Although I wouldn't put it past the god of fate to manage to get a few of the other gods on their side, even in a situation like this. He has always been a crafty bastard. Wait. So, if the other gods and spirits will be doing our work for us, why are we still training to fight against the god of time then? They won't be able to take those three out so easily, Araka says. Even if I wasn't able to kill them, then the other spirits won't... If even I wasn't able to kill them, then the other spirits won't be able to do it either. At most, we can hope for a stalemate. But there's no way Selkrim can come out unscathed after a battle like that. He will be greatly weakened, and that's just what we need. I still don't get why Darren and I are the only ones trying to talk to our spirits, though, Hadrick says. Shouldn't everyone be involved in this, if it's so important? I'm pretty sure that both Kate and Layla have a better magical sense than I do. And who would they contact, you moron? Araka says. Kate is an artificial mage, so she isn't connected to any spirits. And Layla isn't a mage at all. You and Darren are the only ones in this group who are linked to any magical spirits. Well, technically Flower is linked to Aluna, I guess, but she's not on the magical plane, so she doesn't count. Yeah, but I was saying that they should try to contact our spirits instead of theirs, Hadrick says. It doesn't work that way, Araka says. I already told you yesterday. You need to contact them by yourselves. If somebody could have done it from the outside, then I would have already done it myself, since I can already see those damn invisible strings tying you to your spirits as clear as day. Anyway, we're just wasting time arguing about this. Let's move on with the rest of the meeting. Kate, what's your status? Did you manage to magically sharpen your icicles enough to affect those targets I gave you? No, the icicles just keep passing through them, Kate says. I tried sinking a lot of my magical energy into my projectiles to make them as powerful as possible, but it's still not having any effect, no matter how hard I try. It's not the power that you need to be focusing on, Araka says. It's the sharpness. Let me explain. Those targets I made for you were created from a substance that is similar to the solid light that makes up Selkram's energetic body. In order to be able to directly affect something like that, you need to focus less on the physical aspect of your icicle and more on its aura. When you magically sharpen your projectiles, what you are doing is in fact that you are sharpening the auras of your You are sharpening the auras of your icicles, not the icicles themselves. It's the same when you use magical sharpening for any other elements. If the aura is sharp enough, it can affect even a body that is made almost entirely out of energy. That is why, no matter how powerful or fast you make your projectiles, it has no meaning unless their aura is good enough. Araka then stays quiet for a second or two while we all wait patiently for her to resume her train of thought. Also, Araka continues, keep in mind that those targets I made for you have some physical matter added to them as well, to make it somewhat easier for you. With Selkram, it's going to be way harder than that. Of course, if Melindra were to join us, too, things might get a lot simpler. I'm sure that her wind blades are more than sharp enough to destroy my targets, and with a little guidance from me, she might even be able to cut through actual solid light in a matter of days. What do you say, Melindra? Wouldn't you like to take some sweet, sweet revenge on the God of Time after all he did to you? I already told you that I'm not interested, Melindra says. I only came to this meeting out of curiosity, not to join you in your plans. I don't have a death wish, unlike the rest of the people here. She pauses. But I suppose I could give Kate some pointers about how she could sharpen her ice better, if she wants, Melindra continues. Thank you, Kate says. I will gladly accept your help. You said that aura sharpness is what Kate needs to be focusing on. But what about aura hardening? Hadrick asks Araka. Could I try to hit the God of Time with my fists if I made my aura hard enough? Araka says. I suppose it theoretically could be possible, but it would certainly be much less effective. You could try punching some of Kate's targets to see how well you're doing, but I wouldn't get my hopes up if I were you. So let's see who was next on the list. I already confirmed that Barry and Layla haven't made any progress in unlocking the stat devices, magical stats, so I guess that leaves us with Flower and Aluna. But I already know their progress since I'm always hanging around their neck. Flower, you should just keep focusing on sharpening your element, like Kate. Aluna, you do that too, but I think you could do that too. But I think you should keep working on those techniques I've taught you back when I was still your mentor. Sharpening your element will come much more naturally once you've practiced those techniques well enough. I will keep that in mind, Aluna says. Alright, Araka says. So we've got Barry, who's working on unlocking his magical stats. We've got Kate, Flower, and Aluna, who are working on their elemental magic. We've got Darren, whose enchanted sword may well be the only weapon somewhat capable of harming the God of Time right now, but who can't even defend himself from someone throwing a pebble without covering himself in heavy armor. I love it. This team is so beyond hopeless that if you people actually end up killing Selkrim, it would be the most hilarious thing to have ever happened in all of the history of magical and earthen planes. In all of the history of the magical and earthen planes combined. I mean, just imagine the humiliation Selkrim would be going through in his final moments after being beaten by this group of pushovers. I am trembling in excitement at the very idea of it. Yeah, I have to admit that would be pretty funny. How about we get on with this meeting and drop the insults for a change? Is this the real reason why you accepted to help us, to humiliate the God of Time? I don't think any of these really affect good, smart playthrough, so if anyone would like to weigh in here, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will make a decision for us in about a minute. Underrated critic, hello. Okay, number 1 it is. Yeah, I have to admit that it would be pretty funny. And you know what's even funnier? Underrated critic, thank you so much for the resub. Welcome back. You know what's even funnier, Araka says? The fact that he would never in a million years suspect you of trying to oppose him in any way. Your stupidity is the perfect camouflage. If nobody messes anything up, then we should be able to sabotage him in plain sight, and he will never see it coming. Until the very last moment. So, is this it? Mellinger says. Is this your grand plan for taking down the god of time? Do you people think that doing a little bit of training is all you need in order to take down a god? Araka laughs. No, this is only the beginning, she says. In the coming weeks, I will be teaching these schmucks everything they need to know in order to fight Salkram specifically. I will tell them all his weaknesses, all of his personality quirks, all the ways to provoke him into doing something stupid, and everything else that comes to mind from all of my years of confrontations with him. And also, since we will inevitably need to pass through at least one more of Selgrim's rituals before we can openly attack him. One other thing that I will be doing is that I'm going to be teaching these losers all sorry. One other thing that I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be teaching these losers all they need to know in order to wipe that arrogant, smug, irritating grin off my past self's face. Once and for all. I will show that buffoon what it means to mess with someone of my caliber. She will be eradicated from the face of the earth, and it will be this pathetic circus troupe that does her in. I can't think of a more fitting end for that cretin. For that cretin who refused my benevolent offer to... I can't think of a more fitting end for that cretin who refused my benevolent offer and openly tried to threaten me into making me her pet. You do realize you're talking about yourself right now, don't you? Hedrick says. Myself? Araka says. That sad imitation wishes she could be me. She may think she's smart, but we'll see who she gets. She may think she's smart, but we'll see who she gets. Ugh. She may think she's smart, but we'll see who gets the last laugh once I'm done with her. Yeah, but if you tell us her weaknesses, wouldn't it mean that you'd be telling us your own weaknesses? Hedrick says. Wouldn't that help us fight you too, instead of just her? Those weaknesses are from 5,000 years ago. Schmidt, hello, welcome in. Thank you so much for the resub. Thank you for the 6 months. I'm glad you made it. And thanks for the hype train, guys. Those weaknesses are from 5,000 years ago, Araka says. I've found ways to work around most of them since then. And besides, if we ever have a fight again, I'd rather it be something more thrilling than me just turning you all into dust in a few seconds. That kind of an anticlimactic battle just kind of ruins all the tension. You know what I mean. We're getting sidetracked again, Aluna says. Araka, What was the new plan you said you came up with earlier today while we were traveling? I thought you had some new important information for us. New important information to give us. Aside from our usual progress status routine. Oh yeah, Araka says. Remember how I told you that the next time we're in a ritual, we're going to need to be in complete control of our emotions, so we no longer give that bastard all the energy he needs? Well, our efforts will be useless if we don't also coordinate ourselves with all the other groups that received the prophecy after us. We already know that the Sage of the West and his pupil were among these groups, and from what I gathered, some of you met this Azarius on this continent already. So my question is, do you have any means of communicating with him? Maybe a transceiver given to him by Darren? No, Darren says, but I wish I had given him one when I had the chance. I made sure to enchant a lot of these transceivers before coming to Varathia when I heard rumors that they might allow teams in the earlier stages of the tournament, but I wasn't really sure how Azarius would react to me giving him a transceiver out of the blue, especially since he went out of his way to not assemble any sort of team before coming here, unlike the rest of the sages. Well, that is unfortunate, Araka says. I was hoping that we would at least get a bit of a head start for this part of the plan, but I guess we'll all need to do it. Why am I struggling here? But I guess we'll need to do it all from scratch again. Anyway, ignoring the fact that we have no way of contacting these people, our biggest problem is that aside from Azarius, we have no idea who else was visited by the Time Weaver. My guess is that Eden was probably left out of the prophecy this time around, since he will likely be directly involved in triggering the events that are prophesized. So, other than him, I can only assume that the prophecy has been given to the strongest groups of mages participating in this tournament, and maybe some of the hotshots from Varathia, like Tyrath, the Golden Fox, or some of the kings. We can't just throw around guesses, though. We need some solid information, and the only one who could have this information is the Time Weaver herself. The Revenant already told us that the only people she remembered visiting after leaving us were Azarius and his pupil, I say. She said that everything in her head was blurry after that. Well, she should try harder to remember then, Araka says. She's the only one who could realistically find out this information without us having to scour the entire continent asking random people about it. And it's not like we can just skip over this step of the plan either. Like I told you yesterday, keeping the God of Time from gathering new energy isn't enough. We also need to make him expend as much energy as possible while he's maintaining these rituals of his. I have a pretty good idea of what sort of things we could do inside these rituals to force him to spend a lot of energy, but unless everyone else that gets trapped in these rituals does it too, it will just be a waste of time. By the way, what about that other thing we needed from the Revenant? Did you manage to contact her through the transceiver after all? No, I've tried to contact her several times, but her transceiver channel has remained closed since that day with the ritual. I say, I don't think we'll get a chance to talk to her unless she needs to contact us herself. Damn, Araka says. That's not good. If we don't get her to somehow block out Selkrim from stealing her time travel... If we don't get her to somehow block out Selkrim from stealing her time reversal powers, fighting him will be completely meaningless. What's the use in harming someone if they can just keep reversing time to heal all of their wounds? In the worst-case scenario, we'll still get to meet her in the next ritual, right? I say. We could tell her about our plan then. Yeah, Araka says, but I would have preferred to give her some more time to prepare herself, since creating a mental block of this complexity is not something you can do overnight. Wow, I'm impressed, Melindra says. You really seem to have put a lot of time and effort into this plan of yours, Araka. I didn't know you had it in you. I've always pegged you as more of an improviser than a careful planner. Araka is a lot more cunning than she lets on, Aluna says in a cold voice. You should never underestimate what she is capable of, even when trapped inside an amulet. Now, Aluna, Araka says, you are almost making it seem as if I were the enemy here. We're all on the same team, remember? But yes, it most definitely has been a while since I've put so much effort into a plan like this. It feels almost as if I were back in the magical plane, hatching one of my grand schemes to take down the gods and their allies. Of course, things would be going a hell of a lot smoother if I didn't have to carry around this dead weight with me. But beggars can't be choosers, am I right? Hey, Hadrick says, I'll have you know that one of these dead weights you're talking about is going to be the future winner of the Magium tournament. He then turns to me with a grin. Isn't that right, Barry? Hadrick says. Huh? Oh, yeah. Yes, of course, I say in a slightly hesitant tone, as Kate turns to look at me suspiciously. Uh-huh, Araka says. The winner. Right. She remains silent for about 2 seconds, and then she continues. So, anyway, there is much more I'd like to discuss with you all about Selkrim and his weaknesses, but like I said before, our top priority at the moment should be to get in contact with one of the spirits from the magical plane. Therefore, I will spend the remainder of this meeting trying to teach Darren and Hadrick the basics of auras, in the hopes that we can actually make some meaningful progress this time around. Everyone else is dismissed. You can go tend to your own tasks regarding Selkrim, or whatever it is you want to do. Darren, Hadrick, come over here. We've got work to do. As everyone is moving away from the meeting area, I get ready to leave as well, but just as I take my first step, Kate places herself in front of me, blocking my path while looking at me with a very serious expression on her face. Try to walk past her, ask if she can move aside. Listen, if you want to confess your feelings for me, this might not be the best place. Good Smartberry would do any of these. So, if anyone has a preference, now is your chance to weigh in. Otherwise, we will make a decision. Actually, I need to use the restroom, so I will see what the chat says when I get back from the restroom. I'm not going to go to the BRB screen because I don't want any loud clips to be playing for anyone that's trying to relax right now. So, BRB. I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you everyone for being patient. Alright, see number 3 from Rabbit. Oh, I meant to pause the recording. To everyone watching the YouTube video, I'm sorry for forgetting to pause and unpause. Listen, if you want to confess your Listen, if you want to confess your feelings for me, this might not be the best place. I see that you still haven't lost your unique sense of humor, Kate says. That is good, in a way. It shows that there are at least some parts of you that remain unchanged. It is the parts that have changed that worry me, however. What are you talking about? I say, trying to feign my ignorance. Nothing has changed. I'm still the same guy I've always been. Then why did you hesitate earlier when Hadrick said that you would be the one to win this tournament? Kate asks me. Oh, I say as I take a few seconds to collect my thoughts before I answer her question. That was just... he caught me by surprise, that's all. I was in deep thought about Araka's strategies, and it took me a while before I realized Hadrick was talking to me. Is it really so strange for me to hesitate answering a question that you'd need to go out of your way to ask me about it? No, Kate says, but this isn't the only time when you've acted out of the ordinary in the past few days. You've been behaving strangely ever since those rituals. Even if you are still trying to act like your old nonchalant self, in order to avoid arousing any suspicion, it is as clear as day that you are only pretending. You used to have this sort of stubborn ignorance regarding any sort of obstacle that would realistically be impossible to surpass. It was neither courage nor a lack of fear. It was something else. It seemed as if your previous self was literally incapable of processing the very notion of danger. But now you are different. Somehow you've become able to understand what danger truly is. And it's eating you up inside. She then pauses for a few seconds as she frowns at me, while looking directly into my eyes. So, are you planning to talk about it, or are you just going to keep pretending that nothing has happened? Kate says. Wow, I say. You really managed to read me like an open book, didn't you? I suppose there's not much use in hiding it any longer, if you were already able to figure out this much on your own. Let's head over to those two rocks over there, and I'll tell you what you want to know. Kate and I both start walking towards two big rocks facing each other, which are still on top of the hill that we were on, but far from where Darren, Hadrick, and Araka are having their training session. Once we reach the rocks, we lean with our backs against them, as Kate crosses her arms, looking at me intently. So I guess I should start from the beginning, I say. Do you remember that time when I told you how my little sister got possessed by a banshee 15 years ago, and how she killed my parents before I had a chance to save them? Yes, I remember, Kate says. Well, it turns out that the real story of what happened was a little different, I say. I only realized this in the ritual when the god of time forced me to relive my past, but the fact of the matter is that I was never too late to save my parents from the banshee. I was right there, watching them get killed. But I was too scared to do anything about it, and I simply froze up in fear. It was only when the banshee tried to kill my brother as well that I finally managed to muster up the courage to attack her. This was something that I had completely blocked from my mind for the past 15 years, and the only reason why I remembered it was because I needed to recreate the exact events of my past in order to get out of Selkram's ritual. I see, Kate says, as she's starting to look a little worried. The thing is that it wasn't just in my memories. The thing is that it wasn't just my memories that were affected by what happened back then, I say. Somehow, I must have felt such a strong need to never freeze up in fear again that I subconsciously eliminated my survival instincts from my decision-making process. But now that I realize what happened, it's a little harder for me to maintain that same attitude from before. I just can't help but ask myself if the decisions I'm making are really okay, or if it's just my defective instincts kicking in again, clouding my judgment. Is this why you were hesitant in answering Hadrick earlier? Kate says. Are you starting to have second thoughts about your reasons for joining the tournament? No, I blurt out at first. But then I take a few seconds to reconsider my words. I mean, I don't think so. I still want to win and become a mage, it's just that... I pause, not knowing exactly what to say. It's just that you were no longer so certain that you can achieve the impossible. Like before, Kate says. It's more than that, I say. I don't even know if the prize I'm seeking is really what I thought it was, anymore. I have no idea if there's any way to use the Magium to grant me magical powers. I'm not even sure if I still want the Magium. All of the legends used to say that it was supposed to be the source of all magic, but I think it's much more than that. We almost got erased from existence, solely because Araka chose her words wrong while we were in the Magium's territory. Even if I gained access to the Magium, what then? How would I even know how to use it? There's no way I could ever learn how to manipulate that strange world with the same confidence that Araka did. And to make matters worse, one simple mistake from my part could lead to my instant obliteration. If I somehow won the tournament and could freely use the Magium, how would I even know where to begin? Didn't you tell us that you were supposed to have some innate understanding of the Magium thanks to having Lasathi blood in your veins? Kate says. Or at least you should, according to Araka's theory. If that were true, then you might have a greater chance to get some real use out of the Magium than the mages that joined the tournament. Yes, I say, but I used to think that the Magium was the source of all magic. In that context, it wouldn't have been unrealistic to assume that I could use it to make me into a mage. But now that I've seen what the Magium is capable of, I'm not even sure that I want to use it anymore. Just the thought of going back into that world is making my hair stand up on the back of my neck. Then don't use the Magium, Kate says. You already have the solution to your problem right there, in your pocket. You can use your stat booster to become a mage. You only need to find a way to unlock your magical stats, and then you won't even need the Magium anymore. That would only work while I'm here in this tournament, I say. Once there will no longer be mages around me to power up the device, the energy will slowly deplete itself until the stat booster will become completely unusable. But what if you tried to use the knowledge from the Magium to alter your stat device? Kate says. From what Araka said, I'm guessing that it's somehow possible to access the Magium even if you don't enter its world. Surely, amongst all that knowledge, there would also be a way to make your stat device gain its energy directly from the magical plane instead of getting it from other mages. Don't you think? I think you might be right, I say, as I suddenly jump up from the rock I was leaning against. Yes! Why didn't I think of that? even without knowing what exactly the Magium is, I still should be able to at the very least get some knowledge from it. And given my advantage of being a half Lasathe, I might actually be able to make my own version of a stat device with enough practice. That's brilliant. So, should I take it that you've now gained back some of your motivation for winning this competition? Kate says, as she raises an eyebrow while still leaning on her back against the rock. Yes, definitely, I say. Good, Kate says. Maybe now you'll be able to finally focus more on our goals than on your own internal turmoil. It was getting tiresome to look at your depressed face all day. Why, Kate, I didn't know you cared. Was I really looking that depressed? Wait a minute, is this your way of saying that you were worried about me? Once again, I don't feel like any of these are... I don't think good, smart Barry would lean a certain way for any of these, so if someone would like to weigh in, now is your chance. Otherwise, I will make a decision for us in about a minute. Okay, I'm gonna go with the last one. Wait a minute. Is this your way of saying that you were worried about me? This isn't my way of saying anything, Kate says. I simply gave you my advice because I felt that you needed it. That's all there is to it. Now come on. Let's get down from this hill. Layla's probably waiting for you in order to work on your stat device. Hold on, I say. What about your own ritual? What about it? Kate says. How are you holding up? I say. You always make sure not to let your true feelings show on your face, so I can never tell when something is affecting you or not. That's why I'm trying to ask you directly. Oh, Kate says as she looks to the side and her serious expression from before becomes a bit more relaxed, probably in an attempt to no longer hide her current state of mind from me. As she becomes less tense, I can see that she has a very tired look in her eyes, as if she's been overexerting herself for a long while, even though we haven't had any fights in the past few days. I've had a little trouble sleeping lately, but nothing too serious, Kate says as she continues to look to her side. It's been 3 days already, so I've mostly gotten over it by now. It doesn't really look like you've gotten over it to me. Alison, thank you so much for the bits. I appreciate you. Doesn't really look like you've gotten over it to me, I say. If I didn't know any better, I'd think that you've been battling an army of dragons by yourself for hours on end, judging by how tired you look right now. Kate frowns at me. See, this is why I try to never let it show on my face how I really feel, she says. I don't want other people to start worrying about me when they've already got their own problems to deal with. But I want to worry about you, or, well, if you're sure you can handle it, then I won't press the issue any further. I feel like Goodberry would definitely pick this one. But if someone would like to argue with me, now is your chance to do so. Otherwise, I will make a decision for us in about a minute. Happy holidays, Elzen! Did you do anything today? Get anything cool for Christmas? Oh, family life's good. I'm glad to hear it. And for Pink Lizard, hello, welcome in. How are you? It's good to see you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Did you have a good day? Alright. But I want to worry about you. At first, Kate looks a bit... Geralt, hello? 2 Xmas movies this movie night. How were they? Rent and Die Hard. Oh my gosh, I almost watched Die Hard last night. I've never seen it. Geralt, hello, how are you? Welcome in. Alright, 31, so 41. But I want to worry about you. At first, Kate looks a bit shocked by my choice of words, but then she understands what I meant and she starts looking towards the ground as she answers me. Well, she says in somewhat of a mumble, if you like being worried about me so much, then maybe I'll try to hide these things a bit less from now on. When it's just you. She pauses, but still, she continues, as she is now looking me in the eye. I would prefer if you dropped this subject for the time being, since this is something that I'd rather deal with on my own. Alright, I say. In that case, I won't press the issue any further. Thank you, Kate says. Now let's go back towards our camp. We should not keep Layla waiting any longer. It's going well, Geralt. What about you? How was your Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas? If not, how was your Monday? Having finished our conversation, Kate and I go past the place where Araka was training Darren and Hadrick, and then we slowly begin to climb down the hill so we can reach our camp. When we get close to the tents, we see that Layla was sitting on a rock next to a tree stump, which she likely wants to use as a makeshift table, on which we can place my stat device while she works on it. Kate goes on ahead in the direction of her tent while I take my stat booster out of my pocket and put it on the tree stump, so Layla and I can continue our work from where we left off yesterday. Sorry it took so long, I tell Layla. Kate had a few things to discuss with me, so I couldn't come down right away. It's not a problem, Layla writes while smiling. I'm glad that you two finally found the time to have a discussion in private. I'm guessing that she finally approached you about your sudden change in attitude from the last few days? Yes, I say. Yes, exactly. How did you know? Did you already talk to Kate about this? Layla shakes her head. No, she writes, but I could see the uneasiness in her eyes whenever she noticed that you weren't acting like your usual self. And knowing Kate, I figured that she would confront you directly about this, sooner or later. So how was your discussion? Did Kate manage to help you out in some way? My Christmas was good. I got new shoes and candy, and I got a lot of duck stuff. But this is the best duck. It's a huck. It's a gift from my brother. Here. Ah. Huck. Right? Isn't this great? I cannot read it with the light throwing shade on this, but there's a... There we go. These rolling hills are my home. Saddle up, let's go for a ride. I'm heading to the pond for a swim. Oh, you should see me glide. I've never been that confident, and I was quite a shy young buck. It took me a while to realize who I am. Hi, my name is Huck. Right? It's so cute! Yes, so Huck is now my best duck. I also got this nightlight. Oh, by the way, Infrared Lizard. Do you remember telling me that I could probably figure out how to turn off... No, that's on the tag. Yeah, my brother didn't write that. That's on the tag for the Huck. Do you remember I was complaining about the LED lights not being able to turn them off in my PC, and you told me if I could get one of these remotes, they're usually on the same frequency, so this might work for that, and I would be able to turn it off, or at least, or turn it off and on, and maybe change the color settings. It didn't at first, and then the lights turned off, and now they will not turn back on. So you were kind of right. Now it won't turn on. So, fortunately, I have a new duck nightlight that was my new LEDs. Ah, well. I'm honestly glad that I don't need to deal with the strobe light effect, because that was too much. Anyways, let's get back to this. There are only a few variations, maybe the next one will work. I mean, it turned it off. Either that or they broke with impeccable timing. So how was your discussion? Did Kate manage to help you out in some way? Yeah, I say. She definitely did. That's good to hear, Kate writes, or Layla writes. Honestly, I wasn't really sure if you'd be open to speak about your ritual with her, given how everyone's been completely avoiding talking about this subject in the past few days. I realized that each one of us was affected by these trials in a different way, but sometimes it's better to get these things off your chest than to keep bottling them up inside. You mean like how you told me and Kate about your ritual the day after the prophecy? I say. Layla nods. I was surprised that more people didn't feel the need to talk about it, Layla writes. I would have thought that most people would want to discuss these things with friends instead of trying to pretend that nothing happened. Thank you, Geralt. RGB, is that the name for the frequency that most of these lights use? Interesting. Well, if I come across another remote, I'll try and turn them back on. Or maybe I'll one day contact the people who made this PC and ask if they could send me another remote. Yeah, I say, as I gaze contemplatively into the distance. I guess this goes to show that despite everything we've been through together, at the end of the day, we're still just a bunch of strangers who've only known each other for a little over 2 weeks since this tournament started. It's not like we've been traveling together for a lifetime, so that we'd be comfortable enough to talk about this sort of stuff without hesitation. And besides, most of the people in our group are either the types that don't like to burden other people with their problems, or the types that don't want to appear weak by showing they can be affected by such things. If we're ever going to have heart-to-heart discussions about how these rituals impacted us, it will probably happen slowly, and only after everyone has already managed to deal with their problems by themselves. Wolfenberg, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. Welcome to the toy box. What is your No, you can't. I did a lot of research. The LEDs are connected to the power source, but they are not part of the software of the computer. Did you just find that in for Pink Lizard? Well met! How are you? Happy holidays! Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas! If you have any questions about the story, feel free to ask. I guess you're right, Layla writes. Not everyone is going to be comfortable opening up to people they've only known for a short while, but perhaps these things will change with time. She pauses. Anyway, Layla writes, I think we should start working on your stat device. Maybe we'll get lucky and actually make a bit of progress today before we go to sleep. Some motherboards can control the lights, mostly MSI and Gigabyte. I mean, I did a lot of research. I could not tell you my motherboard offhand because I don't really know much about computers, but I ended up downloading a bunch of different software to try and control the lights, and eventually I just found a Reddit post that specifically said that my computer can't do that, or something like that. There's something that specifically told me that my computer just does not have that capability. Just taking a break from video games for a while while you eat some jerky. Nice! Good for you for taking care of yourself. Make sure to drink some water as well. Thank you for stopping by. Night Rabbit, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Sweet dreams. I hope you get some rest. We spend the next 2 hours trying to fiddle with my stat booster in order to see if we could somehow unlock the 3 hidden aura stats that Araka told me about during our meeting. Given that we didn't want to disturb Darren during his training session with Araka, we initially tried to make do with the enchanting tools we had already gotten from him 2 days ago, when we started to work on figuring out the secret code required to activate the magical stats. Once Darren came down from the hill, however, we asked him if he could give us some more appropriate tools because the ones we were using before were better suited for our previous task of cracking codes, and not so useful for our new goal of finding hidden menus. Did it freeze? No worries. No, I mean, I monitor my stream on my laptop and it also froze, so I don't think it was just you. It may have been my internet. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know where it froze, so... We spent the next 2 hours trying to fiddle with my stat booster in order to see if we could somehow unlock the 3 hidden aura stats that Araka told me about during our meeting. Given that we didn't want to disturb Darren during his training session with Araka, we initially tried to make do with the enchanting tools we had already gotten from him 2 days ago, but when we started working on figuring out the secret code required to activate the magical stats. Once Darren came down from the hill, however, we asked him if he could give us some more appropriate tools, because the ones we were using before were better suited to our previous task of cracking codes, and not so useful for our new goal of finding hidden menus. Is it freezing again? Geralt? It looks fine over here. With the help of Darren and Layla's knowledge of magical devices from her father, we eventually managed to discover the hidden menus that Araka was talking about. But now we were facing a new challenge, as the only method Darren and Layla could come up with for unlocking these hidden stats was a risky one, which may even render my device completely useless if we got unlucky. Seems fine? Okay, cool. It's not, I mean, I don't know what's causing it, because it doesn't look like it's not showing me any skipped frames or anything like it usually does. Okay, cool. I'm glad that it's fine. With the help of Darren and Layla's knowledge of magical devices from her father, we eventually managed to discover the hidden menus that Araka was talking about. But now we were facing a new challenge, as the only method Darren and Layla could come up with for unlocking these hidden stats was a risky one, which may even render my device completely useless if we got unlucky. No matter how long I think about this, I'm not seeing another option, Darren says, as he is holding two sharp metal tools in his hands, using them to manipulate the aura around my stat device. I'm not sure if Layla's father could come up with a better idea than this, but I can't think of any other way of unlocking these extra stats than to break the seal placed on them by force. The problem is that if there is some sort of security measure in place to prevent such a thing from happening, your stat device may go into an emergency lockdown mode, which could completely prevent you from using your regular stats until the lockdown is deactivated. If that happens, then fiddling with the device further without having a very deep understanding of how its mechanisms work could cause it to break completely. Maybe it would indeed be better to wait for Layla's father and see if he has some other plans before we go any further with this plan. Leave the stat device as it is, try to forcefully unlock the hidden stats. I think Smartberry would know it's not worth the risk of being without his stats, but if someone would like to argue with me, now is your chance. I'll give y'all about a minute. We could also save. You know what? I'll save here. We could save here and see what happens. That is also an option. Thank you for the hydrate. Wolfenberg, thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate you. Thank you. It's been 20 minutes. Okay. So might be Twitch, you've noticed it on other streams in recent past. Okay, so then that would make sense. That would explain why my OBS isn't telling me there's an issue. Geralt, thank you for the lurk. Actually, I'm supposed to end in about 8 minutes. I don't usually do this. This is not really... Oh, Archimus, hello. My schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. Pacific time. But I usually start with video games and then sometimes switch to this. It's been a while since I've done Magium. I'm glad that you find it cozy here. By the way, since you got here later, if you're interested in playing the game yourself, it's an app that's free for both Android and iOS. But if you do want to know what's going on, all of my previous readings are in a playlist on YouTube. There. If you're interested. Alright, we're gonna leave the stat device as it is. Archimus, hello, thank you for still being here. Yeah, we shouldn't work on it. We shouldn't risk it, I say. Oh, cool. I look forward to seeing you more then. Yeah, we shouldn't risk it, I say. We'll just have to continue this in Allendor. Alright then, Darren says. In that case, are you ready to take the first night shift? The others have already gone to sleep for the most part. Oh, yeah. Let me just get my crossbow from my tent and I'll be right with you. I say goodnight to Layla and I go back to my tent. I say goodnight to Layla and I go to my tent so I can get the crossbow out of my backpack. I then head back towards the hill from before, where Darren is currently waiting for me. He is sitting on the ground at the base of the hill, in a place where he can oversee our camp without being too far away from it, so that we would be able to reach the tents quickly in case of an emergency. Hold on, Barry, Darren tells me, just as I reach him. Could you stand in place there for a few seconds and not move? I'm just trying to test something. Sure, I guess, I say as I stop moving and look at him confused. He then stares at me for a while with a very concentrated look on his face. Alright, now turn around, Darren tells me. Okay, I answer him as I do what he says. Darren says after another few seconds. Could you turn around again, but this time from the side? Do what he says, ask him what it is he's trying to accomplish, want me to do a little dance too while I'm at it. Good, smart Barry, I feel like you could do any of these, so if there's anyone that would like to weigh in, now is your chance, otherwise I will make a decision for us in about a minute. So many sassy people here. That was also my choice when I played this for the first time. Alright, so I see 3 people have said 3, so we will go with 3. Want me to do a little dance, too, while I'm at it? I tell Darren as I turn around to face him. Actually, that's not a bad idea, Darren says with a grin. You could try doing that Dwarven dance where you jump on one foot with your arms behind your head while you keep rotating in place over and over. Don't worry, I'll tell you when to stop. Sweet dreams, J. Rowdy. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful night. Yeah, good night. Sweet dreams. Sadly, my Dwarven dance teacher forgot to show me how to do that one, I say. But seriously, are you planning to tell me what you're trying to accomplish here, or will we just keep doing this all night? Oh, right. Darren says as he finally realizes how ridiculous this whole situation must have seemed from my point of view. I guess I should have started by telling you what was going on. He then pauses for a little while, looking somewhat embarrassed by what he is about to say. I was trying to see if I could detect the fact that you are a half Lasathi, just from the flow of your aura, Darren says. Araka showed me how to do it earlier today, but I still think I'm missing something. You are using your own free time to practice something that you've learned from Araka? I ask him, stupefied. You? Hey, you don't have to act so shocked about it, Darren says. I've been practicing before today too, haven't I? Yeah, but never during your free time, I say. You were only doing it during the daily time intervals we've all agreed to spend on honing our skills, in preparation for our inevitable battle against the god of time. and even then you seemed to be doing everything half-assedly, without taking any of it seriously. That's because I didn't think Araka would actually give us genuinely good advice, Darren says. When I heard her say all that nonsensical sounding stuff about the auras the first time, I could have sworn she was pulling our leg. I didn't expect her to actually be serious about any of this. It was only after I saw that waterfall in the aura above people's head that I realized she wasn't fooling around like she usually does. Huh, I say in a thoughtful voice. That's funny. I could have sworn that your real reason for not wanting to follow Araka's advice was because she's evil, and you suspected that she had ulterior motives for wanting to help us. Yeah, well, Darren says, if there's anything I've learned from that whole ordeal with the rituals, it's that just because someone is evil doesn't mean that they will always have evil intentions. Especially if we're talking about unpredictable characters like Eden or Araka. Even if they help you completely out of the blue, it might just be something they decided to do on a whim. Or for a reason that is merely selfish but not insincere. Like how Araka is putting so much effort into this plan simply because of the scenario of such a weak group. Simply because the scenario of such a weak group defeating the god of time amuses her. He pauses as his gaze now turns to the side. Or how Eden offered to give me the power to save Ella simply because he wanted to see me humiliate myself and not because he had any ulterior motives. Darren says with a much heavier tone in his voice. Araka is a non-corporeal spirit that has been trapped in an amulet. So, she probably just smells like metal. I'm not sure if Eden's only reason was to humiliate you, I say. What do you mean? Darren asks me. What other reason could he have had? Well, I say. I mean, sure, maybe that might have been his goal at first, but when you got on your hands and knees and told him that you'd do anything he wanted, no matter how humiliating, he didn't ask anything from you. Remember? Oh, you saw that scene, Darren says, looking somewhat embarrassed. Yeah, now that I think about it, you're right. When I told him I'd do anything, I thought he'd jump right at the opportunity, but he gave me the power just like that without asking for anything in return. Actually, no. He did ask for something. He asked me to prove him wrong. What do you suppose he meant by that? Smells like rotten eggs? You mean like sulfur? That would also make sense. She is extremely evil. He was almost certainly talking about your previous argument with him, I say. Don't you remember? When you first met him, you told him that there's still some good worth fighting for, and that as long as you don't give up, you will find a way to right the world's wrongs. That was what started your whole feud with him. So maybe, after he saw you throwing yourself on your hands and knees in front of your worst enemy just for the sake of saving one slave girl, he might have had a slight change of heart. When he asked you to prove him wrong, I think he wanted you to show him, through your actions during this tournament, that there is indeed still hope for humanity like you said, and that he made a mistake by giving up on all humans the way he did. No, Darren says in disbelief. That can't be what he meant. Eden has lost his Eden has lost his humanity a long time ago. He might have had good intentions at some point, but that was hundreds of years ago. You've seen the way he acts. He considers humans to be nothing more than insects. He even said this himself. There's no way he'd be having second thoughts now, after all this time. Are you sure about that? I say. Because if we are to judge him by how he reacted when I told him I'd save all the cities in Varathia, I'd say the situation might be quite different. I think that deep down, he wants to be wrong, but it's way too late for him to turn back now. That's why he is giving us one last chance to do what he couldn't do, before everything goes down the drain for good. Oh, boy. Darren says, I had completely forgotten about how you said that you'd solve all of Varathia's problems by yourself, too. Between winning the tournament, killing the god of time, and saving the cities, you sure have a busy schedule ahead of you. Don't you, Barry? Hey, you know me, I say, trying to appear as confident as possible. It's all in the day's work. What the hell? Darren says. Did you hit yourself in the head or something? I could swear that I heard some hesitation in your voice just now. What are you talking about? I say. Of course I wasn't hesitating. I never hesitate. Maybe you're the one who hit himself in the head, instead of me. Right, Darren says as he looks at me suspiciously. Listen. If you think that your plan of fixing all the problems in Varathia is too reckless, then you don't have to go through with it. We already know from the prophecy that we will have the possibility to save the cities from destruction either way, so you don't need to rely on Eden's generosity. In fact, it might be better if we didn't take his word for granted at all, because who knows if he might change his mind. And even if you were right about him, and he truly does wish to be wrong about his stance on humanity, I don't think he will make life any easier for us when we walk through those cities. In fact, I'm almost certain he will be doing everything he can to make things as hard as possible for us, in order to both test us and amuse himself at the same time. We might be better off just focusing on the prophecy for now and dealing with the cities after one of us gains access to the Magium. You're right, we already have enough things to worry about as it is. I haven't changed my mind. I still want to save the cities before the tournament ends. Actually, I never wanted to save those cities in the first place. Well, I think good, smart Barry would definitely pick this one still. But it is after midnight now, so I have to save here. 3, 1. Okay. Yep. I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule right now. So, I've started going to bed. I used to stream a lot later, and I still do every now and then, but I'm trying to fix my sleep schedules. Alright, so Might and Magic, Clash of Heroes. It sounds familiar, but I haven't played it. Alright, I'm going to end the recording here. Thank you everyone for watching.